I promise I am making progress on the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. Welcome back to the channel. So, I have been reading a lot lately, and recording has kind of gotten in the background, but I love updating the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. Now, this year, starting in July, I am participating in what is called the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do by QWERTY. This challenge, I am doing the original challenge, and this challenge is a lot. The amount of challenges that I'm making each book fit has been dwindling. Honestly, these books that I'm about to go through today, I finished 11 books in September, so that is a lot and a lot of reviews. I read 9 books in October, so still a really good month. But unfortunately, a lot of my books didn't fit any challenges during October, so I'm splitting this reading challenge update in 2 parts, doing 6 books here and 6 books in the next one, to cover all of September and October. So once those 2 videos come out, we will be caught up on the challenge. It's pretty much 25 challenges on a bingo board, and the goal is not to get bingo, it is to clear the entire board. Let's just get started because we have a lot of books, and I'm very excited to discuss some of these, if I can remember what they were about. But this is why we have a book journal. Book number 1, The Teller of Small Fortunes. Now, this book was incredible. I gave it 4.5 stars. I actually have a story about this copy. This is not the original copy that I had of this book. I had a book of the month version of this book, and then I left it on the train. I was taking the train up to my parents' house. I was carrying my dog Spencer with me. I finished a chapter about like 1 stop away, so I was like, alright, and Spencer was sleeping on the opening of my bag, so I was like, alright, I'm just gonna put this on the seat, and scroll my phone for 1 more stop, and then I'll get off the train, put it in my bag, get off the train. I forgot to put it in my bag. So I did buy a second copy because I love this book so much. It is a cozy fantasy. It is a found family. There was a lot of mixed reviews, but I noticed that cozy as a genre in general has a lot of mixed reviews because people find them too cozy even though it's in the name. But I understand that cozy is not for everyone. I have always loved cozy mysteries, and since discovering cozy fantasies, it has become like my new favorite genre. Is a wandering fortune teller who travels between different villages and ends up picking along some strays on the way. Um, it is so good and so magical. The whole time we're trying to find this little girl who got stolen by bandits, and we have her father, the little girl's father, and best friend, and a baker ends up joining them, and it's such a cozy, fun traveling book. With There are some stakes because the girl is missing, and they are trying to actively find her. But overall, it is just such a warm and fuzzy vibe. I did not give this 5 stars, mostly because at some points it felt a little too much like we're dragging. Like, we did have some stakes involved, and I think that the characters needed a little bit of urgency, considering this like 3 to 5-year-old girl was missing. They seem to be doing a lot of like moving at their own pace, even though like there's a girl missing, we need to find her. So absolutely adore this book. Now, where does it fit in the challenges? This book has been blurbed by many authors. So blurbed books, so when I talk about that it's been blurbed, I mean that other authors have written little reviews that are usually in the front cover. Sometimes they're on the back cover, or maybe like on the top line here. And this challenge is to find a book that has at least 3 blurbs on it, to read the initial book, and 1 book from each of those authors that blurbed it. So that's a lot of explanation. But this book, considering that it has been blurbed by so many, especially cozy fantasy authors, and as I am new to the space, new to the genre, I just want to dive into as many cozy fantasies as possible. So I chose this for my blurbed book prompt. So this is the original book for blurbed books. This also fits in the spell your full name. My full name is Diana Bello, and the author's name is Julie Leong, which starts with an L. So that also counts for my challenge. Also, just fun thing about this author. This author grew up in Old Bridge, New Jersey, which is very funny to me because I never lived in Jersey, but my brother used to play hockey in Old Bridge. So it was just a fun little connection seeing that in the about the author page. So this counts for Blurred's book and Spell Your Name. My next book was Frankenstein. And I'm not going to go too much into detail about this book because Connor gave a full review in one of his sci-fi review videos, and I interjected some comments on the screen during that time as well. But I gave this book 2 stars. It was better than The Scarlet Letter, but not by much. I will just read my review because I think that is like peak what this book is. Frankenstein is the monster. He was supposed to be a dad and failed. The creature has daddy issues. Too existentialist. Could have been so much shorter. I'm so done with classics from the 1800s. Mary Shelley needed therapy but wrote a whole book instead. And that's where I'm going to leave you. If you would like to debate me on my review in the comments, I would love that. But that's my review of Frankenstein. That is all of the energy I have for that book. However, this does fit in a lot of things. It is F in the A to Z challenge. We're doing great with this challenge, by the way. Just wait. It is a horror book for the genre challenge. This is where like it doesn't actually feel like a horror book, but like existentialism horror, which okay, honestly, like I kind of wanted to read like a real horror for this genre, but it counts and I don't really read horror, so I've read like about like 2 horror books in my life. So let's just get this genre out of the way. And it is also a black cover. I cannot for the life of me find a picture of the book that I have. It definitely was a like an illegal copy. Like I'm pretty sure Frankenstein is public domain, so like anyone can publish it, but it definitely was like not a copy that's supposed to exist. Connor has my copy. And he showed it off in the video about like how poor quality even the cover was and things like that. But it was a black cover. So this is just a nicer cover that I like. That is also black. So it does fit for the black. Either way, the original cover I had was black, and this book absolutely is a black cover. My third book was Work in Progress. This was a book club book. And I ended up giving this 3 stars. It was pretty consistent with what the book club thought in consensus. But this was about it was a literary road trip around the UK. And it was this girl who signed up for this literary tour around the UK. And then, of course, there was drama with enemies to lovers, forced proximity kind of book. Her and the driver got off on the wrong foot. Then he ended up being the driver of this tour. So it's this tour of all these old ladies and her, like a 20-something-year-old, and this guy who's gonna drive them around and give them history about literature in different places. I am okay. I understand having a main character that is unlikable. And I'm okay with having a main character that's unlikable. But when I don't even care about the main character finding love, that's the issue. Like when I don't care about her so much, because you can still like an unlikable character. You can still kind of root for them in like a anti-hero kind of way. But when I don't even care whether or not she finds love, that's an issue. I will say that the old ladies that were on this trip were incredible. I had so much fun with them. I truly wish that our main character Alice just wasn't in the book and it was just a fun literary road trip with all these old ladies like living out their best lives now that they're retired and things. That would have been such a good book. Um, Unfortunately, that was not the book that was delivered. But also, they skipped Wales. Mr. Stacking Pages is from the UK. Currently lives in Wales. He's from England. And I was very excited about this book because I just spent this summer driving up to Scotland. I mean, I was passenger princess. Mr. Stacking Pages drove. But, we drove to Scotland. I was like, oh, this is going to be so much fun. They're starting in Scotland. They're going down to all the way to the coast of England, coming back up Wales. And, oh my God, we're going to, like, be seeing parts that we actually drove through. How cool is that? They skipped Wales. They had so many stops in Scotland and England, and then just pretty much did Wales in one day and had like half a day worth of a stop and said, okay, we've seen everything that there is. No! There's so much cool stuff in Wales. I was so mad. Where's the Welsh representation? Anyway, what does this fit in? This fits in the A to Z challenge for W. And it is a very green cover. At least 50% of the book had to have a green cover, and this definitely did. So, very, very happy with that as well. Next up, this is a very fitting book for today, particularly. As I'm filming this, it is currently election day in New York City for the mayoral election. And this book is The Voting Booth. If you ever wonder about like why I hold up certain books and other books are just photos, it really depends on, first of all, if I still own the book, because I do end up putting a lot of these books on Pengo Books, which is always linked in the description, which is a site that you can buy my books for a really discounted price. They're usually like $5, even lower. Otherwise, it's mostly because once I finish a book and I do like it, it lives somewhere in my apartment. So it's either being sold or it just lives somewhere. Sometimes they're in like easy reach, sometimes they're not. So that's why I have pictures and sometimes don't. But check out my Pengo for some really good book discounts. It is currently election day. I did vote. And this book is The Voting Booth. So this was a pretty good book. I gave it 3 stars as well. It was YA, and I think that's part of why I had a slightly lower rating. If I read this when I was in high school, I probably would have rated it higher. But as a 24-year-old, that's just what the rating got. Now, I do think that the topics that were talked about in this book are really important for new voters, and it definitely, I think, should be a required reading in high school. There was like an insta-love trope, but which I hate insta-love. But considering that this all happened within the one day of election day, I understand. I understand that it had to be insta-love for the story, but I just would have preferred if we didn't even have a romance plot in that case. Then, this book follows 2 voters, who it is their first time voting. One of them had been waiting to vote their entire life, cannot wait. The other one is pretty much just voting to get his mom off his back. And when he gets to the polling place, he's not registered to vote. Or it's not the correct polling place. So the girl who is so excited to vote, she makes it her mission to make sure that his ballot counts. And I think that's where it's such an important message that every ballot does count and you are allowed to have your voice heard. There was sections in which they ran out of ballots. So what happens at that point? Voter discrimination between wealthy and poor neighborhoods. And it had a lot of really good information, and it told the story in a really accessible way. And I think that especially for new voters, it's really important to understand how your vote actually matters and if your voice is actually getting heard. So definitely recommend this book for newer voters. This book counts for B in the A to Z challenge. I was so glad to get rid of V. We in this episode already we've gotten W and V for the A to Z challenge. So I'm actually doing really, really good with like the hard letters, especially at the end. I read Best Hex Ever. That title is so hard for me to say. You will not believe how many takes it took me to say Best Hex Ever. This is one of the books that prompted the Rediscovering Romance series. I gave this book 2.75 stars. I do believe I went into a lot more detail about this book in a previous video, so just a quick review. So in this book, Dina is a kitchen witch who all of her pastries and things are cooked with magic. They're magic infused. But she has a curse on her where pretty much anyone who falls in love with her or she falls in love with will end up hurt. And she ends up in this insta-love, insta-lust kind of relationship with this guy and doesn't tell him about the curse. And the whole reason for the curse is that she pretty much like cursed herself because she didn't love herself. And rather than going through like a self-discovery, she pretty much sat down one day and suddenly said, well, I do love myself now. And the curse was cured. Also, there is this whole subplot about how she was bisexual and she was afraid to come out to her parents. But and that's why she couldn't break the hex, even though she ended up breaking the hex without coming out to them. So it was really like, what is the point of this? I don't recommend it. I feel like it could have been a really cool concept, but once again, as soon as insta lust and insta love is involved, I really find it hard to recommend a book like that, where that is the main plot. The voting booth book, it was a subplot, but this is like the whole point of this book is this insta love, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I feel like you need to actually develop and get to know people before you like fall in love with them. Crazy concept. Anyway, but the reason that I read this is that this author did do a blurb for The Teller of Small Fortune. As comforting as the scene of freshly baked bread, this is a hug in book form and the perfect comfort read, set in an endlessly charming world where with characters you can't help but love. This novel is whimsical, cozy perfection, and I loved every second of it. And Nadia, I couldn't agree more. I love this book, and I am glad that I did discover Nadia Elfasi through this blurb. I do want to check out some of her other works because I did like the writing style. It was really just the insta love that turned me off completely. I would definitely be willing to read more of her stuff and see how that works. Original book and the first blurb is completed. Now, this also is an extremely orange cover, as you can see. And as someone who hates the color orange, I am glad to be done with this prompt. Final book is a book that might not end up on the finished bingo board. And I'll explain that after my review. So this is Guild. Guild is a King Midas retelling. King Midas is the one who anything he touches turns to gold. And I gave this book 3.5 stars. So I posted a full review on TikTok, but pretty much my thoughts were that I feel intrigued and confused and just have more questions. This didn't feel like a full book based on what the comments were on TikTok. It seems like books 1 and 2 should actually be just one book. And I'm interested in continuing. It was a really quick read and held my attention a lot. I'm really sad about the fate of one character because I wanted them to be endgame, and they were not. There actually was no real romance in this book, even though I'm pretty sure this is a romantic series. We're following Orin, who is a gold-plated woman, as her adventures through being King Midas's favored. Pretty much, she's King Midas's pet, even though she is a human that he turned to gold because he has magic powers. And we are following her, seeing her conflicts with the other pets because she is the favored pet. And seeing a lot of different conflicts. It's really hard to describe this book. I went into it only knowing that it was a King Midas retelling, and I think it's better to not know anything going into it. But the reason that this book might end up off of this hardest reading challenge you'll ever do is because currently I have it down for a series that is at least 4 books. There is 6 books in the plated series. There are 6 books in the Plated Prisoner series, which is what this guild series is called, the Plated Prisoners. Part of this challenge is that you have to start and complete a series that is at least 4 books, and the series itself has to be completed. So it's actually been really hard to find a series that is 4 books that has already been completed, that I either haven't read the first book of or that I'm interested in. A lot of series I've already read the first book, or a lot of series right now are either duologies or trilogies. Or I'm not gonna read like the challenge is to read a series that's at least 4 books. And you have to finish the series. I'd really rather not like dive into a 9 book series. And a lot of series now just feel like they keep going. They're not actually like ended. But Guild has 6 books, which is not too bad. And so far, I'm interested in continuing the series. The only reason that this might shift is whether or not I eventually DNF the book. My prediction is if I get through the second book in the series, I usually just need to finish the whole series. So it depends on that second book is like the key, because the first book's always intrigued me, but I have to get through the second to actually be like, I'm gonna read the series now. And that is all the books in this video. Here is our current bingo board. It is looking so good. Look at that completed genre challenge, 8 out of 8. That is our first official finished prompts in these like review videos. If you've seen a certain book where I read If It Makes You Happy, you have seen a little preview of the board, which you'll see a more similar version of in the next video. So there's some spoilers out there, but this is the current board for all the reviews, because I do make sure that all of the books for this challenge are in these like review videos. Spell Your Name is 8 out of 10. A to Z challenge, we're up to 17 out of 26. I think we're doing so good. It's very spread across the board right now. There's a lot of challenges that still have 0, but a lot of challenges that are over 50% as well. So I'm happy with the place that we are at right now. If you are participating in the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do, comment down below how you're doing. This challenge is kind of crazy. I can't believe we're doing it, but I'm so proud of all of us. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all of those YouTube things, and I will see you in the next video.